and now they're getting ready to put the first truss. They've got it up in the air. They're getting ready to start setting them. Oh, he wants to roll in it. It's like he wants to coat himself in peaches. Hey guys, I'm Evan. Welcome to Country View Acres. So today, Henry and the guys from Clark County Construction, they are just starting on our new equipment shed. And right now they're drilling the holes for the posts. So the first thing they did this morning was they set up their strings for where the barn's gonna lay out. So they got some posts. These are like metal posts that they drive into the ground, and then they've got a string for each wall of the barn or each side of the barn. And they get it all measured out so that everything's nice and square. And then they start drilling for the posts. I think they're using about an 18-inch auger. And you can see, I think we're gonna have an 8-foot post spacing along here. You can see all the holes that they've drilled. After they get all the holes drilled, they'll take one of these concrete footings. They're like a little cookie here. I think these are like 14-inch or something diameter. They will put that down in the very bottom of the hole. Well, I think they tamp the bottom of the hole, and then they put that in there. That gives a nice like little foundation for the post to be able to sit on. And then they'll get that post where it's perfectly plumb up and down and right up against that string. And then they'll go ahead, they'll put a bag of concrete in the bottom around it, and then they'll fill it the rest of the way up with dirt. So it's about an hour and a half later, and they've already got most of the posts in the holes, and they've got about half of them up and plumb in the ground. You see these posts have the heat shrink like the pavilion did for the livestock shelter, but these actually switch from treated to non-treated boards. You can maybe see the color change here, but it goes to non-treated on the way up. Now that's because there's going to be metal on the building, so these posts won't be exposed to the weather. They just need to be treated for where they go in the ground. Now on the front of the barn, we're using different posts because these posts will be exposed. So we decided to do a normal treated post, but then go ahead and put the concrete columns on them. This is what we used on the workshop, so this part will be in the ground. We did it that way there's no wood directly in the ground. So the concrete columns in the front, and then the rest of the posts have that wrap around them to protect the wood that is in the ground. So as we look down in the hole, hopefully you can see that concrete little foundation down there for the posts to be able to sit on. And then they're gonna straighten these up and get them all plumb and centered in the hole. All right, they got all the posts in except for the front ones, and now they're getting ready to lift these up. Already got them bolted to the concrete column. In the bottom of that concrete column right there, there's actually a hole, and you put like 1/2-inch rebar through that so it sticks out both sides. And then when you put that concrete in the bottom of the hole, it'll lock that concrete to that concrete or to the column, and then that'll keep it from being able to lift out of the hole. It would have to lift out the concrete chunk with the post, so it just kind of helps lock everything in the ground. So there's only 3 guys working today. They were short a guy, and they did end up quitting early because they had to go get some hay off the field. But they did get all the posts in the ground, and they got them all braced. So as we look at this, you can see all the posts are in and plumb. We got some braces here. We've got some braces diagonal on this side, diagonal on that side. Everything is ready, I think, for them to come back tomorrow, and they'll start putting up those headers. And remember, these are gonna be LVLs, which are like a laminated beam. Well, I guess it's not a laminated beam, it's more like a laminated like board. And they're gonna put that across the front here, across our 20-foot openings here in the front. They'll probably just put regular 2x12s in the back, and they'll get all that put up, and then afterwards they'll be able to start putting up the trusses. So the guys are back out here this morning. They've been working for a couple hours now. They've already got the header along the front of the building. So those are the LVLs, like 18-inch tall LVLs. So there's one on the front of the posts, and then there's another one on the back side of the posts. And then that's gonna support, you know, half or one side of those 24-foot trusses, and they'll be on 4-foot centers. Now those LVLs, they're stronger than regular lumber. Now on the back side, since our posts are on 8-foot spacings, it looks like they are using about like a 2x8 or 2x10s for the header in the back. And then they've got their girts going down the side. They're still putting those on. So they got two things going on at once. So while they're building the barn, I think I'm gonna go ahead and work on this drainage pipe. I'm gonna start gluing a few of these pieces together. I think we'll go ahead and finish the outside right here. We'll get that side done first, and then we'll just see how far I get, and maybe we'll finish it all the way out. Now on this drainage pipe in the barn, I've had some people that are worried that it's going to stay filled full of water and possibly freeze and bust in the wintertime. Well, this pop-up, the way it's designed, it actually there's like a slit in the bottom right here. So even though like when you have water filling up this pipe, the excess water, it pops up and the excess water comes out. And yes, there will be water in this pipe, but it will slowly drain out into the ground through this hole here. So as I'm setting this up, I'm just trying to get this bubble to be touching that line or maybe slightly over the line, and I'll know that it's running downhill toward the drain. So all the pipe connections on this side are all glued. I've got the right amount of fall on my piping, so I think I'm just gonna go ahead and get some gravel and we'll get this all filled in and just get this side finished up. So this side of the barn should be done now. I did rivet the elbow to the vertical piece, but I didn't rivet this piece. So this piece is still removable if I want to take it off. I'm not sure if I'm real happy with how close those two are together. I thought they were going to be separated a little bit more from each other. So we'll see how this works out. I'm afraid with all that water coming out in one spot, it may want to wash out some of this gravel, but we're going to have to wait for a heavy rain to find out. So now to connect this gutter to the piping, I've just got this like expandable piece, and you can adjust it to whatever length you need. That's pretty stiff. It's kind of locked in there, so I'm not even going to screw it in place. That way I can remove it later if I need to. Well, that pretty much wraps up this drainage project. I still need to probably pack down this fill material that we put over the pipe. And I got a feeling I can tell it's a little low. I'll probably have to bring in a couple more buckets too. I need to probably bring it up a little bit higher and then get it compacted. The only thing that bothers me is I'm a little nervous to run this compactor over the top of it, because at this end of the trench, you know, that pipe gets higher and higher. So down here, we probably, even after I add a little bit more fill on top of that, I'm probably still only like 3 inches below the top. So I'll have to figure out exactly what I want to do, but I will need to get this compacted a little bit more. So it's the afternoon. They finished all the girts on the side of the new building, and now they're getting ready to put the first truss. They've got it up in the air. They're getting ready to start setting them. He's got 3 trusses on the boom right now. Now they're lifting one of the trusses off and setting it in place. So the new equipment shed really taking shape today. We went from just some posts in the ground yesterday to now we've got all of the girts on the walls. They were able to get all of the trusses up in the air. And then on top of the trusses, they've got most of the purlins on. They got the purlins on this side. They've got part of the ones on the other side. And then the other thing they did is they added these boards. These are treated boards. They're like tongue and groove. They got them going around the base of the structure. There is a total of 3 boards here. And the very bottom one, they actually dug and set it in the ground. So they actually basically trenched all the way around this to get that bottom board in the ground, and then that way there's no, it's completely like sealed, I guess, right? So if we put gravel in here, we put concrete in here, there's no gaps at the bottom. So they've pretty much got the walls all done. A little bit more purlins to do on the roof, and they should be able to start putting on some metal tomorrow. So one thing I noticed about these concrete columns, of course, your wood post is like 5.5 inches wide or so, and then the concrete column is close to 6. It's actually wider. So what they have to do is they had to come in here and they had to notch this around the concrete. That way this board was still straight in line with this one. And then they had to do the same thing down here on these treated boards. They had to notch it around that concrete column so that it fit where everything is on the same plane going on this side. So when they were lifting the trusses up here, they were lifting like 3 at a time, but it was real tricky for them because they got all this bracing coming off that wall. They got all this bracing in here, so they were trying to get the skid steer inside of here, and they were lifting them up, and then they would just take one off at a time and set the trusses. Luckily, they're only 24 foot wide, so those guys can actually kind of lift them and move them around. But once they got 2/3 of the way across, they couldn't get the trusses up there anymore with the skid steer. There with this fence here behind us, the skid steer really couldn't get in a position where it can get the trusses lifted over the header and set. So they ended up having to use the lift. They ended up setting the trusses up on that lift, and then they would raise them up there. So I think they had to do that for probably the last 6 or 8 trusses. So with all the digging around the bottom and having to manhandle those last few trusses, I really think they got their workout today. And it has been hot. Like every day these guys have been working, last week and this week. It has been where the heat index is around 100, just miserable conditions for them to work in. But I think tomorrow and maybe the next few days, it's going to actually start to cool down a little bit. So if they're going to be putting metal on tomorrow, I think they're going to have a lot better temperatures to do it. So the guys from Clark County Construction, they're back today. They're finishing up the rest of the purlins on the roof. Then hopefully we're going to see some metal up there pretty soon. But I'm going to head back over to the white barn. I checked it this morning, and a lot of that stuff I put in the trench and covered up the pipe seems a lot firmer today. It seems like it's packed down. I think I've changed my mind. I think I'm going to put a little bit more on top, and I'm going to go ahead and just run that compactor over it and be done. So now I think I can officially say the drainage pipe is done. I don't think I'm going to do anything else on that project. Probably one of the next things we're going to do on this barn is there's some repairs that need to be made. So for instance, this post here, it's actually rotted off right at the ground. So when I push on this, the whole building moves. You can see that that post is not in the ground, or it's not attached to what used to be in the ground. So I had the guys that were building my equipment shed, I had them get me an extra one of those concrete columns. So what I plan on doing is I'll cut this post off somewhere in here, and then I'm gonna drill holes, probably with like a 6-inch auger. I'll probably drill several holes around this so that I can pull out the part of the post that is rotted off in the ground. I need to get that out of there. And then I'm gonna try to get that concrete column in the ground and then attach it to that post. Yeah, that's the plan. I think that would just be a lot easier than trying to replace the entire post. Or the other option, I guess, would be to maybe put in, like, drill holes on each side, and then you could put like a short post in on each side and then like bolt everything together. I feel like the concrete column is probably the better choice. So they finished up all the girts and the purlins. They got everything all cut off the way they want it, and they've started putting metal on the sides. So you can see it's being the same color as the workshop. It's gonna be brown on top, and then they'll be black at the bottom. We call it wainscoting, I guess, on the bottom. So when they built the livestock shelter, I noticed that their screws seemed like they're like perfectly in line. And I was wondering what they did to make sure all their screws were perfectly straight like this. And then today I finally noticed that they actually pre-drill holes in the metal before they hang it. I don't know if you guys could see that or not, but while the sheets are on the ground, like a stack of 10 or 15 sheets, they'll just pre-drill through all those sheets at once, and then they can make sure they're all perfectly straight when they're on the ground, and then when they hang them up, they're all the same. I know when I've put metal on, my screws are always up and down and all over the place, so I'll have to remember this trick. So it's 2:30 in the afternoon now, and they're already putting up metal on the roof. They've actually got this side about half covered already, so seems to be going pretty quick. Now, one thing I didn't show on the livestock shelter is that I did want some type of condensation protection so that the roof didn't gather water and drip. So on the bottom side of this metal, I had never seen this before, but on the bottom side of this metal, it has like a fabric attached to it. So this is like the, I don't know, like the moisture barrier. It's almost kind of like a house wrap that you'd have on a house, but it's actually attached to the metal. So that will keep the water from building up and dripping off of that roof. But I didn't even know that that was a thing. In the past, they'd always, you know, they'd always put up some kind of bubble wrap or some type of insulation or something at the top to be a barrier between the barn and the metal to keep it from condensating and dripping. And now you can actually get it attached to the metal. I thought that's pretty neat. So the new equipment shed is really close to being done. They were able to get the metal on all three sides today, and they were able to get the roofing here on the west side. They'll still have to put the metal on the east side tomorrow. They've got some brown metal that's going to go here on the front on that header. And then of course there's the corner trim and the ridge vent. So there's still a few things left to do, but I'll bet you about noon tomorrow they will have this all finished up and they'll probably be heading out. Today we're going to start off. Rebecca has got a bunch of scraps for the pigs.
Yeah, a whole bunch, because the orchard is starting to ripen. So I've been cooking with fruit.
Yeah, and everything that she's cooked for church and everything else that she's made from scratch. She's just got a lot of stuff. So she got this container the other day. It's almost like a little bucket.
Yeah, with a lid so that we can keep it in the kitchen and we can throw all our scraps in there.
Yeah, so it's built up over a few days. So let's go see what the pigs think of it.
Hopefully I can get this stuff out of here. I didn't bring a spoon. Good morning. You guys want some food?
Yeah. That whole, well, man, there's a lot of different stuff in there.
Peaches, pieces of carrots, desserts.
Oh, he wants to roll in it. It's like he wants
like
to
a
coat
dog.
himself in peaches.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of cut up peach peels and stuff in there from that dessert you made the other day.
Yeah.
Well, the noise you hear in the background, that's Henry and the guys from Clark County Construction. They should be finishing up the barn today, so we'll head over there and we'll see what their progress is. So Henry's here on the front. He just got done putting some trim up there on that beam, did some measuring, probably gonna get the metal up there. And it looks like the rest of the guys are working on the roof. So it only took about 3 hours of work this morning and they've got the pole barn complete. So real happy with the way this all turned out. And now the fun part is trying to figure out exactly how I want to get this all organized, which pieces of equipment are going to go in here and where they're going to go. So in this north bay right here, I think I'm going to put all of my hay equipment, or most of it. So I may put the hay rake back in this corner, put the hay baler, the round baler right here, and then in front of them, I may put the hay mower. And that hay mower, when it's laying down, it'll take up most of the width of this bay. And I might still have room for the hay tedder as well. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, the middle bay, I think I'm gonna put both of my newer tractors in here, and then I may put a couple of the implements behind it, probably some of the front end implements like the grapples, something like that in the back. And then the south bay, I'm gonna use this for the firewood. So I'm gonna take all those firewood totes, we're gonna put them along the back wall, may stack them up as well. You can stack those. Get the log splitter all in here, and then the excavator and the mower. At least that's what I'm planning on doing. And once I start getting everything parked, I'll find out for sure whether it's actually going to fit. Now the other big question is whether I just put gravel in here and put a gravel floor down, call it good, start using it, or do I go ahead and get some concrete priced, see if I can get a concrete floor put in here, or if I just wait a year down the road and put a concrete floor in later. But with the log splitter in here and making all that trash and all the wood stuff that comes off a log splitter when you use it, I'd really like to have a concrete floor. That way everything would clean up a lot nicer when I was done. But I'm just gonna have to get an estimate for concrete, and that'll probably be the deciding factor on whether I do it now or later. So as I was editing this video, something kind of occurred to me, and I figure I'll get some questions on it. And the question would be, why did we go to the hassle of using these concrete columns and a regular standard 6x6 treated post when we did the livestock shelter? We had a fully treated post that was laminated and heat shrunk like that. These are not. These are only treated at the bottom, but the ones on the livestock shelter were treated all the way full length with a wrap. And I agree, those would have been better to use out here. That would have been the simpler solution. But the problem was, we quoted this barn first, and we didn't even know that they were an option. So when we quoted this barn, we quoted it with these concrete columns. When we did the livestock shelter, we kind of discussed that problem of needing a fully treated post, but yet I didn't want wood in the ground, or I wanted it protected. And then we found out you could special order, and they had to like custom make them at the factory, basically, but you could custom order the heat shrink post that was laminated and fully treated to the top. So we actually didn't find that out till later down the road, and that's why this one is kind of done a little different than the other one. So just doing a quick count here in my head, I think we'll be able to get maybe 10 or 12 pieces of equipment, implements, different things stored in this barn, and most of those stuff are all scattered around the property. And that'll help clean things up quite a bit, I think. And then the other thing I want to do here later over the next month is I think there's going to be a consignment auction, like a farm consignment auction here into August. And I want to get rid of all our old farm equipment. So that means like the old hay mower conditioner, the old sickle bar mower, the old square baler, the hay wagons. There's several things that I think I haven't used in a few years. I'll just get rid of, and then combine that together with the new equipment shed. I think things are actually going to start looking a little bit better around here. Right now, with all this equipment in the middle of summer parked everywhere, you got the weeds growing around it, starts to look a little trashy around here. So hopefully by September, we'll have things looking a lot better, maybe a little bit more organized. But I think that's going to be it for today's video, guys. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.